Welcome to Restaurant Catering Smarts, your go-to podcast for restaurateurs looking to better operate and grow their catering profit centers. With every episode, you can count on expert advice, innovative strategies, and tasty tips straight from industry leaders. Our purpose is to help your business thrive. So, let's dig in to another juicy episode.
Hello again. I am Michael Attias, your host of Restaurant Catering Smarts, and today's guest is Kevin Reading, VP of Sales and Community Engagement at Luna Grill. With a rich background in hospitality and restaurant operations, Kevin brings a unique blend of sales, strategy, and heartfelt community connection to the fast casual space. At Luna Grill, he's focused on driving growth through innovative off-premise solutions and building lasting relationships that go beyond the transaction. Kevin's passion for people, partnerships, and purpose-driven leadership makes him a fantastic guest, and we're excited to have him on the show today. But before we get started, let's take a minute to recognize our sponsor, Catering Catering Software. They help restaurants turn their catering chaos into calm. Discover why restaurants trust Catering to save them time and increase sales. Go to catering.com and sign up for a walkthrough of the software. Now let's dive into this episode of Restaurant Catering Smarts. Kevin, how's it going?
Really well. Glad to be here, Michael. Thanks for the invitation.
No, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Give me a number. I like the icebreaker question. Number between 1 and 300.
244.
Good number. What's your favorite way to spend a summer day? I think I know this, but go ahead.
It is lounging by my pool or reading a book.
Nice. Mysteries, right?
Yep. Mysteries and thrillers.
Did you read the Hardy Boys when you were a kid?
No, I watched them on TV. But now I'm dating myself back in the what was it? Parker Stevenson
and Sean Cassidy.
Cassidy, yeah.
Okay, so I'm more dating myself. My mom used to want me to read in the summers, and I hated it, but I discovered the Hardy Boys. She had some friends who had older kids, so these Hardy Boys, I mean, they were printed on papyrus and stone tablets. And I remember reading them thinking, God, this would be a great TV show. And then like 2 years later, they make the TV show and I'm not getting royalties. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, I watched that back as a kid. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed them.
Yeah, it was a good show. And then I think they did a spinoff for Nancy Drew, so girls had something to watch. So
yeah, I can't remember who, gosh, I can picture her, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get started. How did you end up in the restaurant business?
So I was going to school at The Ohio State University, microbiology major, thought I was going to be a doctor. But during school, I was the one who always did Greek Week, homecoming, all the events on campus. And one day I sat down and said, what is it you truly enjoy doing? And it was doing events. And so it was, well, if you're going to get experience, where do you go? So I started with the hotel business and sort of worked my way up and through the catering ranks.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So how'd you end up in the restaurant side?
So that really came from, I was working for the University of San Diego, and out of the blue, a recruiter called me and said, hey, we've got Qdoba Mexican Eats. They're looking for somebody to head up their catering department nationally. And I was like, you know what? This is a new challenge. Let's go to it. So that was about 8 years ago when I started with Qdoba. And then 5 years ago, I moved over to the Luna Grill.
So how do you like working for a, I'm going to guess, smaller, nimble, more entrepreneurial organization compared to big, slower moving, if I had to surmise?
Yeah, exactly. I really thrive in a smaller environment. And it's really, I was fortunate when I started, I reported directly to the president. And so it really was, here's your goal is to drive catering sales, go do it. So not a lot of red tape, not a lot of layers to have to go through. I've got, I had access to the president's ear. So very easy to get stuff done. And I'm also the person who's sort of, hey, if something's not working, let's pull the plug as quickly as possible. And you can do that in a smaller company.
There's nothing. I remember one of my marketing mentors, he talked about people who, are always getting around to planning to, and then they got the title of the book written, right? And, perfection is the enemy of progress, right? And the advantage we have, like we have a very small, nimble organization. I can turn on a dime, right? And there's a lot of advantage to that as opposed to, what do they say? A camel is a horse built by committee. So, and then you've got the politics. Like there's no politics. There's a lot less politics in a smaller organization because everybody wants to make money.
Yep,
And, they
absolutely.
realize. And
Yeah.
then what's it like? Because I've worked, in a previous life, I did a lot of catering consulting with chains and individual restaurants and everywhere in between and speaking. I have an opinion on this, but what's it like working with franchisees versus y'all are all corporate owned, right?
We're all corporate owned at Luna Grill. Um, Qdoba, we were sort of 50-50 franchise or corporate owned. I don't, you know what? Working with the franchisees, it's sort of like working with an independent company, sort of a smaller company, because they're nimble. They come up with unique ideas. Um, because they're smaller, they have to come up with unique solutions to opportunities. And I think from a corporate owned perspective is listen to your franchisees. They've got a lot of great ideas. And they can really help the overall business grow.
I definitely think franchisees can be a gold mine of ideas. And I think the same thing, developing software. I know a lot about I've been in it since I was 16. And even the first restaurant I worked at, they did backstage catering for concerts. They got into this niche, right? So I've been around the catering business forever. Um, and I also realized, being in the software business, my clients, as much as I know, my clients still know equal or more, and they come up with ideas and knowing, oh, that's a good idea or that's not a good idea. So it's a wealth of information. But what about you're dealing with that franchisee who thinks he knows better and he doesn't want to implement? If I'm dealing with you on a corporate level, you sort of have to do the mandate from the top down, right? But if a franchisee, they might say, we're not going to really go knock on doors and try to get catering business in our store. We're just happy with foot traffic or doing nothing. How do you deal with those challenges?
So those would really be one-on-one conversation and coming in with all your ducks in a row, saying, hey, here's really what catering could do for your business. Tell me what you think your operational challenges will be, and let's work through those. And I think a lot of times with catering, it's unfortunately on the catering side of it, is once you sort of open the door to say, you know what, you can do most of your catering before you open your doors. You, you've covered labor for the day. So everything that sort of comes after that is, is just, gold on top of that.
Yeah.
And I think most franchisees realize the importance of catering to an operation.
I think today it's not an if, it's a must. But before the unit economics would work out that you could just open your doors and make money. And I think now it's just all part of the plan. Without giving specific numbers, a range, what's your range of percentage of sales in catering if you want to share?
So it's funny, we were just looking at it yesterday. So we've grown from roughly 5 to 7%, and now we're overall about 10% to 11%. Um, but midweek, I've got restaurants that do 35% of their overall business comes from catering. And on any given day, it could be as high as 50%.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I remember when I had my barbecue restaurant, there'd be days we have 3,000 on the register before we unlock the door. And that was going back to '05 when I sold out. So it's huge. And then the marketing, and forget the profit, yes, but then the double whammy of the marketing aspect is you're getting paid to sample. I mean, it's a great.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you came on board, I don't know if you want to go back to your Qdoba days. Um, did they have much of a catering program there, or were you sort of brought in on the ground level and here develop this?
No, so they actually had a program in place. They had been headquartered in Denver, moved out to San Diego when Jack in the Box had bought them. So whole new corporate team had to be put in place. So I joined them. So there was a catering program in place, um, but it was really how can we continue to grow this? And I think from some points the menu was static. They hadn't done a lot of changes to the menu. They weren't working with third-party partners. We were still doing our own deliveries. So really working with third-party delivery partners, getting some third-party sales partners, and that helped grow the business. When I left, we were almost 20% of sales. And
That's
I came on board,
strong.
I came on board, I think we were about 10 or 11% of sales.
And how long did it take you to get there?
3 years.
That's, I mean, that's phenomenal. So, what would you say your top three things you did at Qdoba to get to double their sales in 3 years?
One was to get a good relationship with a third-party delivery partner. That was our challenge. We couldn't deliver the food,
Right.
so I had to do that. Um, Second thing was we rolled out we didn't have catering software. So it was sort of the old, we were using an antiquated system. So we rolled out new catering software. And then three, updating our menu. So we were bringing on items that we would sell in restaurant, and we were including those on the catering menu.
So, I had a Qdoba around the corner from my Corky's, and at the time, I did a marketing newsletter for restaurant and catering. And I remember walking into Qdoba, and they had a table, I want to say on the way out, and it had a chafing dish on it, and they did a color picture that fit in the chafing dish so you could visually see the food that would be set up. And I think they had brochures and maybe drop your business card. But I think they had the stereotypical Mexican Tex-Mex, the fajita bar, the taco bar, the salad bar. Beyond that, what did you bring to the table because that's sort of the staple, right? In in that genre. Would you say those three things?
Yep. And I didn't necessarily bring anything new in the sense of, hey, we still had those, but it was what options were you able to get through those? So when I started, it was steak and chicken. And then in my time there, we had brought brisket into the restaurant. And I said, you know what? Brisket goes great.
Yeah,
Um,
for
so,
sure.
so it was really just expanding the options because then what happens is, hey, I'm a company down the road. We love chicken. Oh, wait, we can get brisket now? Oh, now we can do you twice a week. Um,
Yeah,
because we're not going to do you the same thing, chicken, 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 chicken. But
yeah,
can
and
you give
then
me more options?
and now it seems like people have such micro food problems, right? So it's like, okay, we need three options because we've got to, maybe we want to bring in pork, but there's people who don't eat pork, and then there's some people who are vegetarian, so we need tofu or whatever. And that's just an upsell opportunity because if you're putting three proteins out there versus one, it's just going to add up to more money. So, you know,
Yep,
I definitely
absolutely.
get,
And in fact, that's what we did. That's one of the things we did here at Luna Grill is I came on right at the start of COVID. So, back then it was like, hey, we're going to start selling individual meals because you can't have a buffet. And so we were doing a lot of our bowls and salads. And so
right.
after we came out of COVID, I said, why don't we create a build a bowl buffet? So
Oh,
anybody
that's
could,
cool.
yeah, so anybody could build any bowl that they get in the restaurant or any salad they get in the restaurant, but it's done as a buffet. Um, no, we did that with zero marketing, and it is now 21% of my sales.
Wow, that's crazy.
It
That's
it makes life easy as if I'm the office manager or administrative assistant, instead of walking around to 30 people saying, "What do you want?" It's, "Oh, you mean I can order this buffet and everybody can create their own bowl or salad if that's what they want?"
yeah. I think it's a great concept, and I love it when I go into places and you can custom slice and dice what you want. And you build exactly what you know. Like I try to avoid rice, so give me double beans, or and I like spicy stuff. And y'all are I looked up on the map. You have a handful in Dallas and mostly in Southern California. Are you in LA?
Yes. So we go from Santa Barbara down. And then at the end of this year, we're actually expanding into Arizona.
Okay, cool. Where are you based out of?
I'm based out of San Diego.
Okay, my kids live in LA. It's funny. They grew up in Nashville and they both ended up out on the West Coast. And got to go to Dallas for one of our clients is having a conference. So maybe I'll check you out when I'm there if I've got some free time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You should give us a try.
And I'll ask my kids if they've been out there. I mean, they're big foodies, but LA's got so many places to eat. Every time I go out there, you got to try a whole another batch of things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit more strategic. Like you come to Luna Grill, where was catering 5-6%?
Yep. So 5 to 6%. We were doing our own deliveries. We didn't have an online ordering method. We
So
weren't
I
working.
just had to pick up the phone and call the store, and hopefully there's a guy at a store who knew what the frick he was talking about that could take the order and not
Yep.
turn you off and say, "Hey, we're busy, call me back," or "Go pound sand."
Yep. And that's the funny thing because we actually have um, we call them Luna eclipses, but they run from about 11:30 to 1 and 5:30 to 7.
Like
And
rushes.
yeah, like
Look, yeah,
rushes.
yeah,
So the thing is, nobody so during those times, we ask everybody in the corporate office, the sale, don't call the restaurants because they're busy.
right.
So you can imagine you call me at 11:45 and say, "Hey, I need a lunch for my boss tomorrow
You're like,
at
call me back,
noon."
dude.
And it's like, yeah, we were doing that. We'd say, you know what? I can't confirm that until 2 o'clock because I can't call the restaurant. And I don't know if they can deliver for you tomorrow.
Right.
So I came on board, and the first thing I did was reach out to the same delivery partner I used with Qdoba. And I said, I need to get it, delivery in place.
Do you want to give a shout out to the delivery
Yep,
partner?
deliver that.
Okay. There, we just integrated with Burke. Do you know who Burke is?
Uh-huh.
Third party delivery. And so we have them in our portfolio of third party options. And you can actually book the driver when you're taking the order or when you're doing your routing for the next day.
Oh, very
And
nice.
it's all integrated. So it's cool. I mean, you definitely we were sort of ahead of our time, you know. Um we ended up using a courier who worked out of his house, and nobody wanted to deal with food, and he's like, I'll deal with it. And he had a whole hodgepodge of contractors. Like Nashville's got a lot of musicians, right? So when you're on the road with whoever, Kenny Chesney, you can't deliver, but when you're home for 3 months, what am I going to do? My wife doesn't want me sitting around the house. So they come and, they have a Coke, wait for their order, take their order, bring the check back. We'd give them a barbecue sandwich. He'd have school teachers on break, stay at home moms, retirees. So he had this whole sort of like the island of misfit toys from, the Santa movie. And that's before there was these, you know, companies like Delivered and Deliver That doing that for you. So, you've got to have that because you don't want to turn away business.
No, and that's what we were ending up doing is we were turning away business. So got the delivery partner in place. Then we weren't utilizing our catering software. It really was a big Rolodex. So we were working with third-party sales partners, but they would email the order to the restaurant and it wouldn't get into the catering system.
Right.
So then you'd call the restaurant and say, hey, can you make this delivery tomorrow? I see you only have one order. And they'd be like, no, I got 8 orders on the books. So it really started with, no, everything goes into our catering system. We have a third party delivery partner. Now let's get online. So those were the three things that really helped us take off.
And
Um,
those are really like low hanging fruit, commonsensical. Like you got three big holes in your bucket. They're glaringly obvious. And why didn't anyone else say? Because probably no one else was looking at it, I'm guessing.
Nope, nobody was looking at it, and it really was. And I'm a big proponent. Go back to the basics.
For sure.
Nail the basics. Sort of. Do you have an online presence? Can you deliver? And then it's order accuracy and on-time delivery. And it's like nail those, and everything else falls into place. Then
Yeah.
you can start doing these big marketing campaigns. But until you get the basics down, doesn't make sense to throw money at marketing if every order that goes out is late.
Yeah. I used to have people who would ask me about my catering marketing system. They go, "Is it going to work?" I said, "I don't know. Is your food good or does it suck? Because if you suck, I'm just going to put you out of business quicker, because good marketing just amplifies what you're doing, right? So if you're doing a great job, it's going to amplify the sales and profit. And if you're
Yep.
doing a bad job, it's just going to amplify you going out of business or losing your shirt, because, it's sort of like what they say about money management. How you live off $100 is how you live off a million. So if you can't manage the 100, what makes you think you're going to do better? It's the way you operate, right? And so it's very good. How do you instill, like, what are your core values when you're talking to your team? Like, I'm working, let's say I'm a store manager, assistant store manager in Santa Barbara. What are your core values, or, what's the talking points as a team that you really stress when it comes to the catering?
So big proponent and a big push with our GMs doing pre and post calls with our clients. But it's really that I'm big for a genuine connection, genuine conversations with guests. And I think the more we've sort of gone into the computer age and online ordering, we're losing that. And so what we've found, and it's funny because I'm like, hey, even though a guest places an online order, I still want you to do a pre-call. I want you to do a post call. And what the GMs and the teams are finding out is, hey, you know what? I'm getting more business when I'm doing that, because they're like, hey, you know what? I just went on the computer, but I really want to talk to somebody. And
Don't you think
so,
we're sort of, do you think as a society we're starved for that human connection over the phone?
yes, yes.
You
And
know,
I, and,
go
and when
ahead.
you reach out, and so I just added 2 new sales managers to my team. And I'm like, when you can, I want a handwritten note to your clients. Handwrite a note. Our restaurants will drop a handwritten note in the catering order saying, hey, have a nice day. Thanks for the order. Something as simple as that. And it's amazing the comments coming back from guests on the positive feedback of that.
You know, I grew up in an age, like, I lived on the phone. I still live on the phone. Like, I wake up in the morning, I call one of my buddies when I'm walking, like, and when people go, "Oh, I left him I sent him, I left him a voicemail." Look, get on the freaking phone and talk to the person, and I think that's where AI might not take. I think AI is going to do a lot of cool things, but I don't know that it's going to have the heart and soul of a human to human connection. I have a person who works for me. She does training and onboarding, and one of the reasons I put her in this position is she's warm and fuzzy, and she connects with people really, really well. What is it they say? You buy from those you know, love, and trust, right? And she's very good at connecting with people on a personal level, right? So she'd be like, "Oh, Kevin, what mystery book are you reading? I love mystery." Or, "Oh, you do trivia." So she finds that, and so she's their best friend. And we built that in our CRM. So when you're taking an order, you can see a highlighted the CRM record with highlighted notes. So if you're big into mysteries, even though you might be one of 1,000 people and I don't fully remember you, I could remember, oh, you were reading this Tom Clancy novel or whatever. And I'm like, oh, how's that going? What are you on now? Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, it's in Greece. Oh, I went to Greece in high school. And now you want to do business with your buddy Michael, who gets you, then somebody at a call center that's treating you like, okay, what else do you freaking need, and get you off the phone. And that's worth a lot. I think you can't put a price on that. I don't know that you can measure that, but it's definitely a needle mover.
No, and I wish I could model it because I get GMs who come up saying, "Hey, what do I need to do to increase my catering revenue?" And it's really it's hard to pinpoint, but it's like, you know what? Have genuine conversations with your guests. And I'm not saying don't open up with, "Hey, what do you do? Can I do catering for you?" Like, have a conversation. "Oh, you read thrillers? Oh, great, blah, blah, blah." And then it's like, "Oh, yeah, I work for, a sports team or, I'm a football coach." And then it's like, "Oh, do you guys ever do catering?" It's the catering conversation comes later. Make the connection first.
Yeah. Did you ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie?
Yes. Way back in my hotel days.
Yeah. So I remember I was a big reader of business books in college, and I tend to talk more than I listen, which is not really good. But I remember one of the things he said is be interested, not interesting. And I remember going to a graduation party for a friend of mine, and I said, okay, I'm going to test this out tonight. Ended up talking to this guy who was like a professor at some college. Talked to him for 45 minutes. I didn't say anything. Like literally, I just kept asking questions. And I think by the end of that 30, 40 minutes, he thought I was his new best friend.
But that's the way it works. And in fact, it sort of brings up because my interviewing style is sort of different than most people's, and so I just went through a whole bunch of interviews for. We hired two new managers, um, and I always sit down with them. I say, I've only got two questions for you. You know, tell me a little bit about yourself and why are you here, and then we're just going to open up the conversation, and we're just going to have a conversation. And the two managers I hired, we sat there for 90 minutes just talking, but I was able to get the information that I needed from that conversation, and they were able to find out if I was somebody worth working for. But it was just 90 minutes of an open conversation, no pointed questions, nothing like that.
Yeah, because you can get, if you've done it long enough, you can get a read on somebody and know whether they're genuine and a good person or, okay, this person's a schmuck and he's going to cause me a lot of problems.
Yep.
I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and it's a, we want to distill it to scientific, do a personality profile and see where they are. And there's some value in those tests. But at the end of the day, you're right. If you break bread with somebody, you spend 90 minutes, you're going to get a good gut feel like, I like this guy's vibe and he's going to fit in our culture, or not here. He's not a good fit here. And I think we've gotten away from that. They do that very well in Europe. Like when we go out to eat in the States, it's like, let's eat and run. Europe, it's like a 2-hour meal. The servers aren't in a hurry. The people aren't in a hurry. It's really nice to be able to connect with people and, really get to know each other and not just be about eating the food and running.
Yeah, because that's the other thing I'm teaching the GMs is we do this little exercise where I put up company logos, um, and it's usually high end, so it's the Mercedes-Benz star and some other things, and then I say, "Hey, what are they selling?" And then I ask them, I'm like, "But what is it people are buying from them?" I'm like, "Yeah, Mercedes sells a car, but is that what the person's buying, or are they buying something else?"
If you want a car, you buy a damn Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic, if that's all you need is transportation.
Yeah. Same thing. I throw up Target and I throw up Nordstrom. It's like I can get clothes at both, but what am I buying when I walk into Nordstrom? So then I make them think, what is your catering guest buying from you? Yes, we sell Mediterranean food, but that's not what they're buying.
So tell me what they're buying from Luna Grill.
So buying is that um, customer relationship. So I'm more interested in you than just what you're purchasing, but it's also they know I'm going to get the on-time delivery. I'm going to get my order accuracy, convenience. So most of my clients, and it's funny, they'll text me and they'll just say, "Hey, same order as last week, tomorrow 11:30," and that's it. And they'll know that they'll get a confirmation, and they're good to go. So it's really the convenience of I don't have to go online. I don't have to talk to somebody. I don't have to reintroduce somebody to what I'm looking for. It's you already know what I'm looking for.
So do you know who Mike Roman was? Ever heard the
Yes.
name?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. He used to do
Cater
What's the?
Source.
Yes, yeah. I
He
used to go to
started,
Cater Source. Yep, I used to
yeah,
go to Cater Source.
yeah. So I knew Mike Roman when he would charge $99 for a seminar in a hotel room, and he had a newsletter. This is before he started this whole big show and everything. I mean, back in his early days, he was a guy on a stool doing a full day seminar for, $200-300, whatever. And then you could buy his newsletter for $100 a year. Then he got the trade show, then he got the magazine and he got bought out and all this. The guy he definitely, I would tell you, if you could get your hands on anything he wrote back in the day, because what's old is new again, and we forget that stuff. Like the classics are history repeats itself. And one thing he taught me, which has stuck with me, is what your guests are really buying is lack of embarrassment. Because at the end of the day, the admin's got to have food for 10 brought in the boardroom for her boss for a meeting, or 20, whatever. And you're not getting a raise if you're the admin. If you do great, you ordered catering, what am I going to give you? A bonus? That's your job. But if that food is late or cold or doesn't get set up right, you're getting your ass chewed, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if Luna Grill's food is an 8, but you deliver on everything, you show up on time, this, and this, I'll deal with the food as an 8 as opposed to food in 10. I don't know. Are they going to be early? Are they going to be late? Is it going to be this or that? Can I get hold of you when I want to place an order? Do I have to wait 2 days to get a return phone call? That's really what you're selling, is that lack of embarrassment. And I thought, yeah, that's really at the end of the day, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and in fact, I had something come up a while ago, but it was a pharmaceutical rep, and she ordered from us, and the restaurant had forgotten to include utensils and plates, and so it ended up that she wanted to end up speaking to me. I ended up comping the entire order. I said, I get it. I said, we embarrassed you in front of a client.
Yeah.
I said, I have no intention of charging you. Yeah. I said, that was a simple thing that we forgot. I said, but to you, that was huge. She goes, thank you for understanding.
Yeah.
And
People
I'm
can,
like, absolutely. And so when I talk to the restaurants and I bring it up, I'm like, just because you think, oh, I forgot to include the utensils, that's not a big deal. I said, no, if I'm throwing a birthday party in the office, no, because I probably have a hodgepodge of plates and
right.
old, plastic forks and stuff. I said, you're a pharmaceutical rep and you're doing a presentation in front of a bunch of doctors and you don't have any plates or utensils. I said, that's huge.
Yeah. I think people have to put things in perspective, because if you're thinking tactically, you're thinking, dude, what's the big deal? It's a $300 order. But what it really is, it could be a $500,000 relationship. It's not the $300 order. You're screwing, like, do I want to give you a $500,000 worth of my business if you can't even get a freaking lunch right? Right. And that's the way I frame it. And that puts things in perspective. Like, it's not 300 worth of food. It's the value of that relationship. And that's what and then when you put it in that terms, it's like, yeah, and I had the same thing happen with a farmer rep. We had to comp the order, comped her next order because the courier was late, and we salvaged the relationship. And not only that, she introduced us to a lot of farmer reps and introduced us to the Middle Tennessee Pharmaceutical Reps Association. We sponsored them. We did a dinner with all you can eat, all you can drink once a year in our private party room. And that turned out to be a huge amount of business for us, right? But we would have never gotten that if we lost her business. She would have told every rep, don't deal with those clowns and Corkies. It's crazy. It's exciting when it works well, and it's frustrating when it doesn't. But it's just, like you said, it's the basics, right? It's just
Yeah.
so basic.
And and what's important in things like that is making sure to communicate back to the restaurants. So we deal with a couple, high profile clients, and we may have an offshoot for, one order that goes to a restaurant that normally doesn't. And I'll write the restaurant and say, hey, I just want you to understand this is part of a larger account. Please make sure that, everything goes great for this. Or, hey, we're going to do this, but this may open the door for this down the road for you. Please, please make sure everything's good. But it's bringing teams along so they understand the importance of groups as well. Um,
Yeah.
and they're more invested. The restaurants are
Yeah.
more invested at that point.
And I think you're really doing them a service beyond the job. I don't think the values that, and I'm surmising what you and I were raised with, is really explained to kids today. They're like, their heads are in their tablets. The parents want to coddle them. They want to be their best friends. They don't want to be their parents. And so a lot of those things, like we were taught or your ass was kicked, is not really taught anymore, right? You know, there's there's nobody who gets kicked out of the house and say drink out of the garden hose anymore. It's like here, play your video game. Here's a whole refrigerator full of snacks. Eat whatever you want. Do whatever you want. That's all gone. So let's talk about a couple of things. One, you have a sales team. How does that work?
Yeah, so it started when I first started about a year in, we added a regional sales manager for San Diego. And she's done really well for us. But then I have a background in hotels. That's where I started. Um, and hotels have national account managers that are specific to certain markets.
Yeah.
And we do really well. Our food does really well in the sports market and the pharma market.
Yep.
So I talked to the president of the company and my boss, who's the CMO, and I said, you know what? I would really like to hire a national account manager, and their focus is solely on sports.
So you're talking
And
about like high school teams that come and play in a market and professional sports and
high
everything?
school, college, perfect. Yep. So we have a couple. We have a partnership with San Diego Wave, which is the professional women's soccer.
Yeah.
We do some other things. In fact, we just got back from, or we're still in the middle of. We did a hospitality suite for the Dallas Cowboys up in training camp in Oxnard.
Oh,
Uh,
fun.
and it is fun. So we were thinking, hey, you know what? We do really well, but those take relationship building. I can do it, but you really need to build a relationship, and that takes time.
Yeah.
So we reached out, we posted for either former professional, semi-professional, or D1 athlete, had a whole bunch of candidates. And we ended up having two individuals. One's a former Major League Baseball player for the Mets, and another one was a football player for San Diego State. But the San Diego State gentleman, he was a pharmaceutical rep at the time.
So he knew how to sell and build
And,
relationships.
and we loved both of them. So I said, you know what? And I convinced the powers that be. We hired the former Mets player to do the sports world, and we hired the gentleman who was a pharmaceutical rep to do the pharmaceutical market. They've only been on board for 2 months. Um, both have, um, shouldn't say that they're increasing sales at the moment, but they're building their
Their
base.
pipeline. Yeah.
They're building their pipeline. So we've already got teams lined up for spring break next year when we go into Arizona
Oh, nice. Is
on the professional
I
side.
would imagine guys at that level, they're six-figure hires.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're
And
probably looking for a seven-figure return.
so exactly.
It's interesting, and I tell people this, we'll go spend $40,000 on an oven or a piece of equipment or point of sale system, but you don't think about investing in catering sales. Like even if you break even on the first year, then it's a residual. You're going to assume they're going to get back what they got their first year. Once they break even, it's all profit, right? They pay them off that because it's incremental profits. Once they get a certain book of business, they're self-funded, right? Well, there's nothing
Absolutely.
else that's self-funded, and they're not geographically limited, right? You
Correct.
know, so you could probably cater anywhere within an hour to 2 hours, given enough Cambros, equipment, whatever. So how many people in your sales team, if you will?
So I have three field salespeople, two national account managers, and a regional, and then I have six um, catering coordinators that operate a call center.
Gotcha. And the six are taking the orders for the 50 stores or around 50 stores.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I would imagine, do they have follow up? You said you want the GMs to call. Are the GMs doing the calling? Is your phone center people calling to confirm and check in afterwards, or is it a combination?
A little bit of a combination, but more so now it's on the restaurants. It's on the GMs or somebody they appoint. Um, and then my team will just follow up on, um, if a restaurant can't follow up for whatever reason. But my team really goes through and makes sure that um, delivery drivers are assigned. We haven't forgotten to, choose deliver that, or they're going to do a self delivery.
Yeah,
um, Making sure that, when we get third party sales that, we've added the utensils and items like that because they don't always get
yeah.
added. So that's really what they do is they do a good job of making sure that the restaurant has a perfect looking order, and nothing's missing off of it. And then we let the restaurants take it from there. And the process seems to work really, really well.
Okay, we're getting to towards the end of our chat. Two things. One or two grassroots, really good ideas to bring in catering sales, sort of like something I can apply to my business, besides the basics we talked about.
I was going to go back to the basics.
But
Uh,
let's assume I got the basics. Give me like something juicy that I'm like, damn, that's a good idea.
um, you know, what's really helped, and it's not necessarily juicy, engage with your community, do community events. Because you're probably thinking, why is the vice president of sales also the director or vice president of community
Yeah.
events? There's your sale pipeline right there. As people come up to you at wine and food festivals, or you're doing the Alzheimer's walk, or those things, those are your potential catering guests. It's great. You're giving back to the community, but look at every single person that walks up to your booth is a potential catering client.
So the follow-up question to that is, are you capturing names?
Yeah, so we do. So marketing tips, we do the QR code that, click on the QR code and you register. A lot of times we'll do, hey, give us your Instagram or your Facebook and we'll put you in a drawing for a raffle. So yeah, we'll do those things along with our
Are they
community.
automated or semi-automated?
The
Like if I come to an event and I do the QR code to win a free catering or something, is that automated or semi-automated?
automated.
Cool.
So
Um,
yep. So leave that to the marketing team to figure that out.
so you
But
don't know what they're using to automate that.
I don't.
Okay. And then can't have a conversation without talking about AI. Where do you think AI is headed as far as your business, and what positive or negative things do you think are going to come to be?
I think one of the negative things and why I'm sort of staying away from AI at the moment is I don't want AI to replace that personal connection. And I think there's too much of that's where AI is leading. So my proponent, I've talked to people before is, hey, I'd love to have sort of AI listening as I'm talking to a guest. And so you and I can have a more conversational, you know, conversation about your order, but it's picking up your order. So you say, hey, Kevin, you know what? I need something for next Tuesday, 11 a.m. delivery, 35 people. I want this, I want that. And AI is typing it out for me while you and I are conversing.
So it's funny you mentioned that. um we're looking at overhauling online ordering. um we have a big initiative of that. I think where AI is going to be really big on AI ordering is you do have an AI audio assistant online that while you're placing that order and you're stuck or you have a question, it can like show you the desserts. It can click and it could literally fill out the form for you if you're not going to pick up the phone. Um, and I've also got this vision with our VoIP phone system and emails and texts, whatever, that I can digest all that information. And you've got Kevin and you've got Michael, and I'm analyzing who's the better salesperson and why. Is it because Michael has twice as many phone calls and he's selling more than Kevin? Is Kevin selling a higher check average? What words is he using? Maybe you have certain phraseology that everybody in the brand needs to be using, And that's now our new brand standard. Like Michael's saying, you don't want dessert, do you? Well, no, I'm not going to sell dessert. And Kevin's like, oh, do you want the chocolate chunk twice baked cookies or the fudge nut ice brownies? That's making my mouth water. So it's one of those things. It's the Wild West. I don't know where it's going to settle out. I do agree with you about the human. There's a lot of companies that have put AI out there, and now they're taking it back because the people are going like, I don't want to talk to AI. It's not at that point. Now, maybe my kids or future grandkids will be used to that, just like this generation, younger generation's used to texting and not talking on the phone. But it's definitely going to be interesting times for sure.
Yeah, I've looked at it because I know that some are like, hey, clients like to call in and find out like where their delivery order is. But back to our thing, I'm a farm rep and my order's not out there. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to a recording. I want a human person who can empathize with me and solve my opportunity, not a computer that's telling me, oh, the driver's 10 minutes out. Well, is the driver really 10 minutes out or what?
Exactly, for sure. Well, Kevin, this has been a great conversation. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate your time. And
Oh, absolutely. I've enjoyed it, Michael.
yeah, hope you have a great day.
You too.
You've been listening to Restaurant Catering Smarts. For more insights and episodes, make sure to follow along, subscribe, and share at caterzen.com.